Welcome to Two Dukes Garage, and today we make a custom bezel for my 66 Rogue. We're going to make it out of some really nice 6061 aluminum, and we're going to use basic woodworking tools to do it. That's right, a regular table saw with a regular blade and a regular router with a regular bit. Nothing special. You don't need custom milling machines or anything else, CNC machines to make stuff out of aluminum. You can do it right here at home. You can do it in your own shop. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. My famous safety third. Hoyt won't let me play with his toys unless I actually put on some PPE. I'm gonna cut this down on his table saw. I got rid of my table saw because I don't do woodworking anymore, but turns out you can cut aluminum super easy on a table saw and with regular woodworking bits and that kind of stuff. Even on your routers, on your table saw, skill saw, jigsaw, all that stuff works for wood and for aluminum, amazingly. Jigsaw blades, obviously you need to look for the bimetals or whatever, but these blades have carbide tips on them, just like all the stuff that you'd use to cut metal and everything else. So I'm gonna trim this down, get it a little bit under 3.5 inches, and then we'll flip it over and we'll set the depth on the blade and we'll start cutting all of our grooves. So I'll run this through once just so you can see it, and then we'll probably come back when we start marking out and doing all the grooves. So here goes something. Where's the on switch? So that's the neat thing about using the saw like that, those carbide tips. This just has the slightest bit of a burr on it. That is a good, clean, square edge that I can now run the other side through. So we'll just set it, take another 16th off. Where'd that brush go? There it is. Now, as you can see, both sides on this are good and square and clean. So now we're gonna mark out some grooves and we'll come back when we get that all set up. So what we've done here is I've marked my center point and I've locked down my guide on the blade so that I'm gonna start at my center point so that these stay even. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut my center groove and then we're gonna check the depth. I've set it so that it's roughly half of the thickness of this, which should leave me plenty of meat and plenty of rigidity in the panel, but also give me a very noticeable depth so that I can black that out with some enamel paint later and polish up the tops. We're going to give this one a run through, check the depth, see if I like that, and then if I want to adjust it a little bit deeper or a little bit shallower, we'll adjust that after that. But we're going to start in the center and I'm going to work my way out so that everything stays even off of the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my center line. If I like that, I'm going to move this 1/8 inch further away from the saw, and then I'm going to run it through once this way, and then I'll flip it over and run it through once that way, so that the distance between each one of the things is identical. So even if there's a slight variation, it will remain symmetrical across the board, as opposed to trying to do 1/8 inch increments every 2 bands. So I have my center one, the 2 on either side of that will be the same distance apart, and these 2 will be the same distance apart. So if there's a couple of thou difference from one to the next, it'll stay the same all the way across, and I won't have kind of one here, one there, one up and down and up and down. So if there's a little irregularity, at least it will look symmetrical. So I don't expect perfection on this. Like I said, this is I'm going off 16th inch markings on a table saw. That's it's a nice one, but it's still just a table saw. So, and it's not a mill, so I can't dial this into 3 decimal points or anything like that. But this should be more than good enough for what it is, and ultimately as pitted up as all the pieces that I'm trying to match up are inside the car, this will actually probably make the others look bad, and I may have to go back and do a lot of work on those now. But we shall see. So anyways, I'm going to start on my center one, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Forgot math for a moment there. So I was trying to go over an 1/8 inch. I need to go over at least 3/16 of an inch because that's how wide the blade cut is. So just forgot my maths for a minute. So anyways, we're set back up now, and we're set to go 3/16 of an inch. So every groove will be 3/16 inch wide with roughly a 3/16 inch gap on either side. So like I said, I've moved it that way, which means that I'll be cutting a groove on this side, and then I'll turn it around, and because I've gone that way, I'll be then cutting a groove on the opposite side. So I'll cut 2 grooves with every move of this until I have a reasonable, probably 1/4 inch or maybe a little more left on the top. I want no less than a 1/4 inch at the top because I may need to trim this down a little bit more to fit. And I have to bevel the back edge because the inset where I'm going has a slight curve on it. So I need the meat there. I don't want to break through these deep grooves. So here we go again with some more cutting. Man, super stoked. I think I may do 1, maybe 2 more. Let's see. 1, 2.
Doing my best to keep the galaxy out of the.
Oh, pan over here. Just zoom in. Wait.
Just a little bit.
Just zoom in right there.
Yeah.
Look at that. We're gonna zoom in. That's gonna be an upcoming project, but shh. Don't tell anybody. Hoyt's getting in on the action too.
There was another one sitting right in front of us. The
Yep.
94 Cherokee.
And his little 4x4 project. You'll see them all. Give us a little time. Going to put me just within an 1/8 inch of that edge. So I guess we'll call that done, and that'll be good enough for that. So now we got to do is just trim this down. You can still see the dotted line there that I have to cut to, and then we'll route off the back side of this, and that piece will be done. And then I've got another cool idea for this piece here. Another place to use that possibly. So, all right, that's it. We'll bring you back with it once it's all cleaned up. But you can see, I mean, that's going to look pretty good. You're going to have to swap these blue lines out for the silver, and everywhere it's silver will be black when it's all said and done. But it looks pretty good. Kind of get a side view so you can kind of see what I've done. Close there.
Dun dun dun. Thank you, Mr. Adam Savage, for showing us this trick.
Yes, Adam Savage cuts aluminum like this all the time. He made his Captain America shield this way with a router and a table saw. So he's the one that just harps on how often you can and how well you can do this with the table saw and regular woodworking equipment on aluminum. So thank you, Mr. Savage. Anybody who doesn't watch Adam Savage Tested, or any of his one-day builds and all that stuff, you should. Unless you're like me and you collect tools, at which point you will learn about all kinds of new and expensive tiny little gizmos and gadgets that will make you go broke. Not that any one of them are particularly expensive, but he has a lot of really cool nicky-nacky toys and specialty tools. So, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Savage. Alright. My wife's not going to be super happy with me, but I'm going to paint the kitchen. Alright, so I'm going to paint this up, much to my wife's chagrin, here at the kitchen counter because it's a bit chilly outside. But all I'm going to use is basic Rust-Oleum. You get this at Home Depot. I'm going to use xylene to clean it up and wipe it off. I'm doing this before I take all the tape off just to help keep it clean. I wouldn't normally use the xylene. I'd probably just stick with paint thinner, but I ran out, so using what I have in the garage at the moment. This is the same stuff that I use to paint the other parts of the dash, but this is real simple when you have the tape on it. You don't have to be too terribly careful with anything. You just got to get it in there and then deal with cleaning up any of the excess. Should just be a few spots that you have to deal with after that. But you just go through each one of these grooves. I'm trying to paint both the bottom and the sides, so that's what I'm doing. You can try and paint just the sides if you want. I think that's a bit of a pain to get done, certainly harder than doing it like this. Now on the other stuff, I painted this with a much smaller brush, individually, carefully, slowly, because I didn't want to tape off and cut all the little pieces of tape. But since I did this one this way with the saw cutting with the tape already on it, it's already perfectly marked off. And like I said, there are a few nicks in the paint here and there, or in the tape here and there, that I'll have to clean off, but I have to polish the top surface of this anyways, so figured I'd get this done while I can. And like I said, I'll clean up the ends too, where it goes off to the sides where you can see it. Or I may paint it, depends on what I think it looks like in the car. I'll check that out, although I'm likely to leave it. The dash is already black. I don't want too much of this black. I just want it highlighted in here. Mad about painting in the house. Reach your hands around here and show the world. Like I said, my wife's a bit of an artiste, so she paints. She got a whole room to paint in, so it leaves me painting at the kitchen counter because my garage is dirty, which is exactly what she's probably about to say. You can do it in the garage. You cleaned it up. That's a big if, honey.
You should clean the garage.
I should. Light kind of a little weird in there. It's shining like it's nothing in there. As you can see, right from that angle, that it is good and painted. And there are a couple little spots I can see already I need to touch up, but those are easy enough to do. No big deal. Easier to do after all this is dried. I'm gonna leave that there, and so when we go to drill all the holes in it, I'll tape the whole face off again, just to keep stuff from scratching the surface, because it's just more stuff I'll have to polish out of it. What I'm about to do is drill all the holes for the bezels, or for the gauges that go in the bezel, and I'll just show you those real quick. Just quick time lapse, nothing big. It's a basic hole saw, 64 mil and 52 mil. All right. have it. Bezel's drilled. I'll do a little bit of filing and cleanup between all of these. These are going to be kind of tight together here, but that's all right. Kind of want the tack to be the centerpiece anyways. So bring you back when I got more to talk about. As we're continuing on finishing out my custom aluminum bezel here, what I've got is a regular router table. This is it's a inexpensive Porter Cable one. I think these are, Harbor Freight, eBay, Amazon, that kind of thing. But it's got a fairly powerful motor on it, and we're using standard wood bits from Ryobi here. Right now I'm currently going to use the 1/4 inch roundover bit on the back edge. So if we're looking at the front here, where it sits in the car, this square edge along the back side needs to be rounded off so that it fits in the stamping on the dash. So we'll bring you back as we cut it and kind of show you, but again, router bits, woodworking tools, those kinds of things, they go right through. Hey, look, my thing matches my tabletop there. How funny. So yeah, woodworking tools work pretty good on aluminum. We did just a couple of test cuts, jumped around really bad, if that'll focus. Jumped around really bad on these thin parts because there was just too much flex in it. But then we jumped up to where it was solid on there, and you can see that just gives it a really nice, clean, smooth finish when we don't have the flex that those little pieces of.
You run your finger across
and
it.
We've got the depth set. I mean, that's good to go in. I mean, it's ready to go. So we'll film while we run through it here and come back. What we're doing is pre-prep on this. We figured out that a little WD-40 really just helps keep the aluminum from gumming up on the blade. I'm not using much, I'm just dripping a little bit on here. There's an extra bit of lube, but again, these bits have carbide blades on them, so they eat this stuff up pretty good. So again, what we're going to do before I turn this on is, instead of just pushing it through like this, which was causing this to lift up and down here, even just a little bit, causing chatter and really ugly cuts on the back, we're going to do like we did the second time. We're going to use this stick, which sits up above here, and we're just going to set that on top and use that to hold down on that side. So that's how we get that really smooth cut. I'm going to turn this on again. It's going to be super loud, so here we go.
Oh yeah, like butter.
And that's that cut. I mean, it has a few wobbles. You can see everywhere that I've lifted off to reposition my hand. So I mean, depending on how your router table is, you might have something similar to a planer where you can lock it down and slide it through. But this cut amazingly well all the way down the length. So hopefully now this will fit much better inside the bezel, the stamped steel of the dash, where the old piece had some insets and stuff. So hopefully, if we can see now how that edge looks.
Yeah.
And like I said, this was super easy. Just clean it up a little bit with a brush. Take it home and wash it down. And it's done. One custom bezel for your 1966 AMC Rogue, or basically any other hot rod that you want to put one in. It's all the same stuff. All right, we've got the bezel back into the dash. I'll turn you around here in a second and show you that. Everything's just kind of temporarily in there till we get all the wiring finished up in here, because I'm rewiring the whole car front to back, brand new harness, connectors, everything front to back. But just kind of want to give you guys a heads up and show you what my bezel looks like. We've seen it, all the stuff that we've cut out, and the look is just incredible with it all painted up. And it's so easy to do using a table saw and a router and all that kind of stuff to work aluminum. So anybody out there that wants to try and do it, it's not that bad. Go ahead and do it. Be crazy. And it's fairly inexpensive. I think this piece of aluminum cost me 25 bucks or something. So don't be afraid to try it out. Here is the final product, or final look. Everything's, it's not permanent right now because everything's going to get wired in. So those will all get adjusted to be, perfectly straight and whatnot. I've got these little milled out washers, I don't know, grommets, whatever you want to call them. They're aluminum and painted, and I'm kind of just using them to plug up all the holes currently that the old urethane dash corner guard covered, because I don't think I'm going to put it back on, so those are just kind of temporary while I figure out what I want to do. But I am going to go ahead and use those to cap these off, and they will have a hex head cap in them. Right now I need to get some longer ones, so I've just got some regular 1/4 20 bolts running through there. But there's kind of the view through the steering wheel from the driver's seat of what it looks like. I'm not, I don't think, going to cut out the radio hole that is behind this. I've got it marked, so if I ever want to put it back there, I can. But I think I'm going to go ahead and mount it in the glove box, because I'm mostly just going to use Bluetooth with it anyways. So no sense in having it mess up all the cleanliness of the dash there. So that's it. Just thought I'd show you guys what it looks like there in the finished form. So that's what we got. Simple tools. Just the old ordinary table saw and router. And my hands are shaking here. I'm sorry about that.